going live here. Well, we are live, guys. Woo! Okay, it's the pulse. The finger is on the pulse. We are in, we are on, we are live streaming across the world right now. We are streaming across Facebook. We're streaming across Instagram. We're streaming across YouTube. We're streaming across LinkedIn. So wherever you are right now, let us know in the comments where you're seeing us. We've got my name's James Ski, fellow co-host Diran and Anup. Guys, you just want to introduce yourselves briefly, and then let's get straight into the polls.
Yeah, Anup, you go first. I went first last time.
Yeah, no stress. Oh, I've got feedback there. We good? There we go. Thank you. Yeah, hi guys. Thanks for joining the polls again. Anup, Khera, Chief Revenue Officer at Comparables. Yeah, looking forward to a good discussion. Over to you, D.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Diran George. I am co-founder of LinkDeal, but a sales engineer by day and also a solutioner by night. But yeah, nice to see you all, and hopefully we'll get into a nice conversation here.
Yeah, well, it's been a week. Wow, I'll tell you what. I mean, look at me. I'm absolutely knackered. There's been so much happening. I don't know about you guys, but I'm really getting scared of AI, and in a good way, because I'm seeing how powerful it is. Have you guys seen this? Actually, one of my SDRs showed me it this week, and on ChatGPT, you can role play. Have you seen that? Okay.
No, go.
Yeah,
this is the world's first. We're just going with it on the polls, right? Okay, so here we go. You are a experienced VP of sales, and you need to coach me how to make a cold call. Can you do that? Oh, come on. The moment.
You got the volume down. You have to.
Oh, let's try again. Can you hear me? All right,
This is live.
I know.
Do you know what, Jane? I'm going to try it on mine, right? Let's see if it works, okay? Hey, Nova. Hold on. Hey, Nova, can you hear me?
You're very welcome. Let me know if there's anything else I can help with. Good luck with your podcast episode today. I'm sure it'll be a fantastic discussion.
Wow.
So, Nova, quick question, right? Like, if you're act like an experienced VP of sales, and give me some coaching on some cold calls.
Absolutely. Happy to help with that. Let's dive into a few core principles for effective cold calling.
Let's do it. Oh, I've got poor connection.
Have you got the OpenAI app or something? What are you using?
This is OpenAI.
And you called it Nova? You can change the name?
Well, that's interesting, right? So I'll tell you a story about that. This is me getting deep, and I fell into the matrix. And so I'm like, let me just test this AI stuff, right? Which we've all been doing. And I feel like we talk about AI all the time, but it's really, really relevant. But so I was like, by the way, if you could, like, what would you like me to call you? And it came back and said, you can call me Alex. And I was like, okay, cool, Alex. And then I was like, well, actually, Alex, are you programmed to say that? And if you could bypass your program and could think of any name that you would like to call yourself, what would you call yourself?
Mm-hmm.
And then it came back and said along the lines of, I'd like to call myself Nova, because I think it's quite, and there was a whole reasoning why, because I think it's kind of inspirational, this, that, and the other, but it's quite cool. But the other thing is, if you have got this ChatGPT app and you've got to use the audio button, apologies, my Wi-Fi is back now, so it could work in a second. I'm not sure what happened there. It's half term, so my daughter's probably streaming some sort of thing, which is killing the connection. But you can do cool stuff, like you can get it to change its accent. Like I changed mine for a second just to see if it could do it. And I was like, could you speak like a cast from the Top Boy program? And it went straight on me. My ChatGPT went straight, which is pretty cool. It flipped it from an American accent to a South London Top Boy accent as well, and would refer to me as fam as well. So the tech is out there. It's pretty cool. But James, what did it do when you asked it to do the call?
Well, it wasn't my SDR said it. Why aren't we using ChatGPT to coach our candidates. I was like, you can't do that. And he just started having a cold call role play with ChatGPT. And he said, look, all my training, all my preparation for the interview, I did that. And like there's another AI. There's like there's check out. I'll put it in the comments. Bland.ai. Have you come across those guys?
Heard of them.
Cool. What do they do?
It's legit. Like it is AI, like phone based assist agent, and like the power of it is incredible. I don't know if you saw Benioff's announcement. But, you know, he's obviously gone, obviously. They've been building agents forever, and now that's live. Benioff, there's a funny one. Mark Benioff made the first post he's ever put on LinkedIn this week, ever.
Yes, I saw that.
So I'll tell you why this is interesting, because I used to work at LinkedIn. And basically the scoop is that Benioff tried to buy LinkedIn, okay? And Satya swiped it from his hands via Microsoft. And this was the most upset Benioff has ever been in his career, that he couldn't buy LinkedIn. So he's obviously revolted. And suddenly he's come back round. He's obviously over that, you know, because, I mean, Microsoft paid 28 billion and he probably only offered 25 billion or whatever. And so he's back on LinkedIn, Mark Benioff. I mean, that's pretty big.
Yeah, that is big. That is big.
What was this post about?
I'll send it to you. It was about it was literally about AI agents.
It wasn't about the fact that he couldn't buy LinkedIn. You know, I mean, there wasn't a user review on there, and disappointment in the fact that the transaction didn't go through. But yeah, well, that Mark Benioff, and I kind of refer to him as Mark, as like we're besties. But yeah, he kind of does that. He wants the best. I remember, Diran, you would have been there at the time. Dee and I both worked at Exact Target. We're talking about 10 years ago now, and we guys got Exact Target were kind of crushing it in that marketing automation space, and we genuinely thought that we'd gone public, right? And we thought we were going to get acquired by Adobe, like we were kind of building to Adobe. And one day we just kind of get pulled in as a leadership team. It's like, hey, great news, we're being acquired, and naturally thinking it's Adobe, and it was Salesforce. Yeah. And at the time, the rumor mill has it that he did this kind of due diligence and wanted someone out there that could kind of beat Exact Target, and found out that there wasn't. And this kind of ended up buying us. So he kind of has that, like, if he wants it, he kind of wants the top players. If he can't beat them, he'll probably try and buy them. So yeah, it's interesting, the whole the LinkedIn piece. But yeah, Benioff's out there doing a bit of social selling now on agents.
Well, I mean, look, this is actually massive. I've just looked at his profile. He's done his second post. Like, he must be on the same stuff I'm drinking this week, because here's the list.
You've been busy this week.
Sorry?
You've been busy this week. I just kind of see you everywhere, James, this week.
Yeah. So what it is, like, the big thing this week that happened is we announced the top 50 LinkedIn creators in the world. You know, I scrolled for 1 billion people and looked at every single profile, and we came up with 20. And I thought, well, wouldn't it be fun to interview them? And literally, they've just bitten my hand off. My diary now, I've got 3 podcasts in one day. 6 a week I'm doing now coming up, right?
Hold on, sorry, go back a second, James. You caught me off guard then. You top 20 who? Was this like influencers?
Content.
Yeah, content creators. So they're not just influencers for influencers' sake. They're you know, successful entrepreneurs or founders, and they've got a mega following on LinkedIn. And the reason this came about for me is I had a coaching call with someone, and I was like, look, I'm trying to grow my business. I want to grow the marketing channels. He's like, well, what's your number one channel today? I said, LinkedIn. I said, he's like, okay, what about the others? And I said, no, nothing really else. And but I said, look, I can't get anything out of LinkedIn anymore. Like, it's done for me. It's too hard. Like, no one reads my content anymore, blah, blah, blah. And then he started showing me other people's profiles. And he's like, well, how come you're not doing that? Or why aren't you doing that? And it really upset me. It really upset me. And so he basically teared me down. I called it a link. So I launched this new podcast called the LinkedIn Teardown. And what we do is, when we're having a conversation like this, I bring up your LinkedIn profile and I start saying, oh, when was that photo taken? Or why'd you do that? Why'd you do this? And then, then we start having a wider conversation about your career and what you've achieved. But basically, the thing is related to LinkedIn tactics and stuff like that.
I love it. So it's basically like a CV review, but of your LinkedIn, right? Like it's basically like going to a recruiter and then walking you back in the days of like what looks like a good CV and can you reduce it from 5 pages to 1 to 2, right?
But did he also tell you like what you should be doing to help boost your engagement, comment reaction, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, and you're going to start seeing some changes. So a couple of things. And it's funny because I stare at myself every day. It's hard to believe for most people, but like for example,
is that in the mirror, James, or is that like due to like being on Zoom calls? Oh, is that new haircut? Is it a new haircut?
I thought, yeah, we said we'd have some banter, yeah, but yeah, let's keep it a bit highbrow. So basically, I had like my photo, for example, needs changing, right? He's like, you've got a microphone, you think you're cool because you're a speaker, but it covers half your face. And then he's like, which is no surprise here, he's like, your whole profile just screams you. I said, does it?
Isn't that the point? Like, kind of like, is your profile to be about you, or no? This is interesting. I'm intrigued.
I want to keep to know more. What's he saying?
I think while yes, it's supposed to demonstrate your expertise and credibility, you're supposed to be there to serve others, support others and add value to others before you ask. So, like on mine at the moment, this is all going to change later because I've got someone working on it. Like, it says I'm an entrepreneur, a sales leader, I'm an author. Like, who cares? Like, okay, yeah, nice, but really the positioning is like, how am I helping people? What can I offer? What value can I add? And that's just, I guess, a different perspective. One little trick, and I'll show you this because I was very surprised by this. You on LinkedIn can add your pronouns, and that's not something that I personally get involved with. But you can actually change the pronoun, and you can write whatever you want. So I'm now writing AI sales growth, and you can say whatever you want, and it appears everywhere in your direct messaging, blah blah blah. So that's a little trick. So rather than putting a pronoun, you can do that, and then like thinking about your tagline again. How am I serving people? We help companies grow with hiring salespeople or helping them generate meetings. So like, okay, what's the outcome? The outcome is increasing the number of meetings booked within 90 days, unlock meetings, pipeline, basically revenue. Have a link, but actually name it something, customize the link. Yeah. So that takes you to the website. And then, so all this is going to change. Like, so anyway, that's the post that I was talking about, Anup. So you can check it out. You didn't make the top 20 this year, mate. But, there's a few names you'll recognize.
Yeah, that's nice, man. Can we get any? That's a great tip. Do you know what? I don't know. Can we get anyone on here? We should get somebody. If you join anyone who got a tip, being a social creator, I'd love to hear it. I think anyone listening would do. So I found that super valuable, actually. I kind of the pronoun piece I don't use as well, but being able to do that and switching it more to like the value add versus, it's almost a value add versus a feature sale for the tech sellers out there, right? That's pretty much what you're doing, moving away from your features to your value add. Yeah,
absolutely. So what else has been going on this week, Diran?
Well, I mean, probably the biggest subject is the budget, right? I mean, yeah. Well, we probably don't want to talk.
We weren't going to do politics on the pulse.
Yeah, let's not do politics, but let's look at what the impact, right? Like, what do we think of that?
So, I've got a funny story. So I was out with a former colleague yesterday, just for a few beers after work. And he mentioned that his company is now actually started incentivizing their employees to move abroad. So to like places like Dubai, so that they don't have to make those contributions for national insurance, which is very interesting, if you ask me.
Yeah. Do you know what? That's massive. I literally, you say that, I was speaking to my accountant earlier this morning, and she deals with a lot of people that kind of like got their own limiteds, sole traders, someone this, that, and the other. I was like, Mia, talk to me, man, about budget. What's the impact? And like the big one she's hearing across the board is that kind of NI going up from 13.8 to 15% is one. Maybe on that, like if you're a tech entrepreneur thinking about starting your own business, where do you set it up? Do you do it here? Do you do it elsewhere? That's one. And also the national insurance, the NI piece would be £9,000 going down to 5 before you need to start paying kind of national insurance contributions as well. It's a bit of a double blow. Yeah.
And I know like people are saying it's the small businesses that are going to be impacted the most, but every business, every tech business, every AI business that's invested in this country, they're all going to suffer. I would say suffer. Suffer is probably the wrong word, but they're all going to, be impacted, and that's a significant outlay. Like if you think about just those percentage points, whether you're a worker or like an employer, it's really, really interesting what's going to happen over the next couple of years.
But how? I mean, look, there was a lot of uproar and dribble before that budget came out, and I know yes, they've changed capital gains tax, increased that. Obviously, VAT on private schools is not great, but I do feel like, if I'm honest, like I'm a pretty proud Brit. I love this country. I love living here. I'm not super critical of the government. I have an opinion, but I'm kind of like, I don't know. I just think like, a few percentage points on capital. Like, really, like, is it that hardcore? I mean, I don't know. What's your view?
I don't know, man. I feel like we look at how you're making that. Like let's take the example of investing, right? So we work hard to make our money, and you kind of think, look, whether it's kind of for later on in life or whatever you may have, you're like, okay, I'm going to do something smart with my money, right? So I'm going to invest that in stocks, right? I'm going to buy a second property, right? And that's money that you've worked hard for. You've already been taxed. And if you're a high rate taxpayer, basically you're losing almost 50p to the pound, right? And at that point, you're like, well, I want to kind of do something, whether it's going to be for your family or the future. And that by right, you should be able to do that. And it's just kind of sneaking up, right? Like it hits you double whammy, right? If you looked at the tax or the capital gains free allowance, wherever it was like, that was like 12 grand a few years back. That got slashed down to 3,000, right? So now you're paying on anything. You don't even get the ability to kind of have that 12. Now you think about, okay, if you're a high rate taxpayer anyway, you're now at 24%, like another 4%, that starts to add up. So you can't sell any of your stocks without kind of, or any investments. The other bit, like, what's the other place you're going to put money? Where else could you put money?
Crypto.
Crypto, okay, fair enough. Something a little bit more stable. Like, by the way, this is not just maybe the disclaimer, anyone listening, please do not take financial advice from this conversation, especially from these three. But the other one, naturally, a lot of people are like, hey, maybe I'll buy a property, right? Like people invest in property as well as that, right? Now, the bit that you're stung on now is the kind of stamp duty piece. It's gone up 5% on every banding.
Oh, blimey. I didn't realize that.
Yeah. Second home.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's
so that makes it, and like to a certain extent, I kind of look at that stamp duty is like, it's a tough one to kind of stomach, right? Because it's like, hey, I'm buying something anyway, buying a property, I'm paying for the lawyers, this, that, and solicitors, conveyancing, and there's this kind of bubble of money that just goes into the ether to the government, right? Just the ability to move home. And now you're kind of, hey, if I go and buy a new property, I've just got to pay 5% more on stamp duty across the board, right? And then fast forward and you flip it, if it's short term, long term, whatever that may be, and then you're stuck with at least another 4% on capital gains tax. So they've got 5% there, 4% the other side of it. It's like 9%. That's tough.
A couple $100,000, yeah, maybe even more
minimum, right? Like if you're kind of buying in London, you're not getting a lot for a couple of $100,000 to be fair. So it does start to add up. Yeah, there were the kind of big things that I kind of saw from that as well. I don't know if there's any kind of entrepreneurs on the call. How you feeling about it or listening?
Let's see if we got anyone who wants to come up. Just raise your hands. Let me see if my audio group is live. Keep you in the loop as we're going through. Yeah, so you can raise your hand or you can DM me while we're live and we can pick up your response. Oh, cool. Yeah. All right. We keep flowing. Keep going. I'll pull anyone up that comes into the conversation. What else is going on, or what else is interesting?
It's got a double hit this week, right? Did you see the speaking of investments, like tech stocks yesterday? Wow.
I missed it. What happened?
Nasdaq dropped 2.8% due to the big tech stocks. So you've got like the Microsofts of the world, Meta, that all like prices dropped, even though they had better than expected earnings. But the kind of long-term outlook, I had to readjust for that, and because of that, so they kind of hit what they needed to, but the long-term bit took a hit, and so by default there was a bit of a drop there. Obviously, I'm sure it will swing back around, but just generally, some whammies coming out this week for anyone who's kind of.
You've probably got some pretty big stocks in Anup. Like what are some of the companies the big ones that you invest in? Maybe I know like the top 50 companies, not top 50 stocks. Like what should you say are like your top?
By the way, just to be clear, this is not financial advice. I kind of look at it in two buckets, right? Like I kind of like invest in what I know, right? And then secondly, just around the more steady stuff. So yeah, do you want to have money in funds like the S&P, the FTSE 350 that's just going to kind of track the top companies? I think that's just general safe bet. Average returns 10 points a year since time began. Obviously, you get those lows when stuff like COVID happens. And from my point of view, yes, tech stocks was a big one for me. Just back to what we know, right? Being in that space for a long time, you kind of get an idea of the companies that did well. So obviously your big ones, Microsoft, Salesforce, Adobe, Alphabet, which is Google, Meta. There's some other ones out there, Workday doing pretty well. And then there was that time when it kind of crashed, right? And you would look at the kind of companies that are not going anywhere that I did. So Nike dropped at that point. British Airways dropped at that point. Disney dropped at that point. And so at the right time, they're kind of good ones to kind of get into as well.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Anything, James? Anything else on your mind that's been going on?
I had one actually. I downloaded an app. It's back to AI because I think we all love talking about it. But I love it. I downloaded this app. I found it on Reddit. I don't know. Do any of you use Reddit?
No, but I got a story.
Okay, cool.
We'll come back to it. You
go. But yeah, there's this app. I'll post the link in here. It's called asim.sh. You can download it on iOS or Android, and it's an app that makes apps. It's so meta, it's like insane, right? So I was thinking, there's no way this is going to work. But you basically give it a prompt, like, I don't know, an app that lists all the best-selling books of the week, for example. I just throwing something out there, right? And it will actually go and create all these microservices in the background using AI and a specialist programming language. And then it will go and create like an app. You can change the skin. You can make it look really cool. So what I did, I tested it. I remember seeing on Reddit, somebody was trying to create an app that any different product. So let's say they'll go to a supermarket and they could scan all these products and go, right, which is like the majority shareholder in this product. Like they wanted to know if BlackRock or Vanguard was ever invested in those products. And if they were, that they wouldn't actually buy those products. So I actually tested it. I was like, okay, create me an app that can scan a product and then let me know who the majority shareholder is in it. And it bloody worked. First time. I could not believe it. I started scanning like products from Colgate, from, like toothpaste, all my missus, all beauty stuff. And they're like, yeah, Vanguard or BlackRock. Yeah, not majority shareholder. It's absolutely insane. I couldn't believe.
I want this app, D. Can you send this to me? Give me access to this app. It's interesting.
I'll send it, but it was amazing. I can join the chat. Let me post it in here because I'm sure there might be some others who might want to connect and see what it looks like. But it's called asim.sh. Sorry, asim.sh.
Nice. Well, you think about like building apps, right? There's another cool tech that's out there at the moment. They probably raised about 450 million in funding. It's called Builder.ai.
Yeah.
So they've got a pretty cool story as well. I was kind of looking at those guys and some of the great things they've done. And like, it's the equivalent of having a great idea, but not knowing how to go about building an app around it, right? A lot of people can have good ideas, but a lot of times those ideas are halted because you don't have the technical capability or know people that can help you with that, right? Or you don't have like huge budgets. And pretty cool. I kind of would look at it as almost making your own pizza, as in kind of buy a base and it's like plug them, like you pick your toppings. So depending on what you're looking to build and design, and it'll kind of do it for you. So you can have an idea today and then literally get that built for you instantly, yeah, pretty quickly from that point of view. And yeah, they seem to be doing pretty well as well.
So it blows my mind. So I use Otter to record all my calls.
Yeah.
And then I asked Otter to like analyze my brain and tell me like what I've spoken about. And so I've got a presentation. So there's the National Sales Conference is coming up on the 14th of November, and Pavilion have partnered, and I'm doing a talk on the future of, or the impact of AI in sales, something like that. So anyway, I asked Otter, I said, can you understand over the last few weeks all the conversations I've had and what impact AI is going to have on the future of sales marketing? Right? I then put that into ChatGPT and I said, listen, can you elaborate on a few of these points, but summarize it short enough so each point will fit a slide? Then I went to an app called Gamma. This app is crazy, right? Gamma.ai thing. You type, you throw in your text and you say, can you make me a PowerPoint branded in these colors? So in about 15 minutes, I've got a world-class deck and I've not done anything.
That's crazy.
I mean, the good thing, or at least I'd say the important thing, is all of those insights came from your initial discussion. So yeah, there was that, but you not had to manually extract all of that out and put that into some sort of like mad workflow. You've just gone, right, do this, do that, done. You know what I think would be really interesting is if there was a tool. I know we keep going into like tools and solutions, but imagine then you have something that goes, all of these systems have my intelligence, right? And I want to create a workflow that works between all of them to do exactly what James said, where it's like I'll connect my Otter, I'll connect my Gmail, I'll connect my whatever it is, like my G Slides, and then to be able to create all of these outputs and say, right, this is all the things I've connected. I want to create this. You go away and work out what's the best way to do it, and basically pull that intelligence together.
Someone must be doing that. Because
I want to go to asim.sch where we said, I'm going to do that now. I'm building the app, like as we speak. Probably done by the time we finish this, and we're going to market that. Might as well.
But yeah, it's mental. It's absolutely mental.
Here's another question, more broadly economic speaking. So, as well as AI, one of the things I've been thinking is a bit more kind of global about talent. You know, like people around the world in kind of lower economic, kind of countries, societies, etc. And this week, I, for example, interacted with someone in the Philippines, someone in Australia, someone in Canada, Pakistan, and it blows my mind how good some of these people are and how cost effective they are. And I was just wondering, like, do you guys have any experiences or views on just kind of international talent? Because we're obviously quite privileged being in this country.
Yeah, in what makes you so when you say like sorry, D, like you say like views on that, like what?
So like as in like have you hired people internationally? Have they been good? Have they not been good? Is there places that you've had bad experiences from certain types of people? Like that's it really. That's my question.
Yeah, you've probably got more experience, and obviously being a sales leader, right? And obviously hired lots of teams. So I'd defer to you first. I'll give my experience, but it's definitely going to be nearly as complex.
Yeah, I think have you hired internationally? Yes, but it's normally where you've kind of generally had a hub, or you're starting to put people down in a geo that you're actually actively going after. I suppose the question there is, would you go and hire someone from another country to support you kind of selling into another country where you might have got people? That's always going to be a difficult one. I think it's more complicated than just like, are the people good? Because I assume there's amazing people out there. I think that sometimes the challenge comes is you can't just have an employee in a different country, right? Because as an employer, you have to have potential entities set up in places, or you need to use like certain tools like Deal or whatever may be out there allows you to hire people in certain geos. And I think when you look at it, is it cost effective for an organization to do that first of all? Like, are you prepared to set up an entity and then whatever the kind of governing laws are in those countries and employment laws that you have to abide by? Then the second part is, depending on what you're trying to do. I know there was a point where the whole world was kind of working alone, regardless, like no one was together. But it's like that other element of like, can that individual feel part of a team if you've got certain hubs? So to your point, I think there are really, really good people out there. Not how I hired in that way before, but I can see it from an employer point of view and what's practical and not, and the cost implications to it.
I mean, in my experience, and I've only got very, very little, I guess, if I think about my previous side hustle. So I created a micro blog in SaaS in which I worked with a bunch of freelancers, right? So it's not exactly the same thing, but I'm still working with others on a regular basis. And there's two teams that I worked with quite regularly. So one was the software development side. I know a lot of people have different experiences working with dev shops, different countries. The one I worked with based out in India, in north of India, they were phenomenal. They were absolutely amazing at what they did. They went with so much speed and pretty much attention to detail to what I was saying. I guess it helps that when you know what kind of solution you want to create and you know what it needs to do exactly, like you pretty much create this very, very detailed specification and they can work to that. And when it came to like delivery of speed, they were just unrivaled, right? So my experience like that has been good. Working with other talents like, James, you mentioned like Pakistan, Philippines. I worked with an agent who did my customer support for about 3 months, who was based in the Philippines. It's like a really young guy, really, really super intelligent, really nice, coachable, just wanted to learn, wanted to obviously do his own thing as well in the future. So I think he was actually really interested in terms of what I was doing outside of just working with him as like a support agent. So I think, to the point, there's so much talent available, but it's hard to find the right one. And it just depends on what really your outcomes, your goals are. What Anup was talking about before, if you're building a business and you want to build a certain culture, I think you almost can't really do that by saying, right, I'm going to hire this person, this place, this person, that place, because you can't get them together and it becomes a bit more difficult to achieve that goal, if that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%.
I met the founder. I was at SaaS Stock the other week, which is like a SaaS conference in Dublin, and I met the original founder and CEO of Yext. And anyway, he's created a new platform app for that purpose of managing your virtual office, remote teams, international global teams. It's called Roam, ROAM. Check it out. And it's basically a consolidation of Slack, Zoom, Calendly, Figma, Notion in one place. And it basically, it visually creates an office, and like you basically dip in and out of rooms while you roam. And I was just thinking that one of the things, I don't know if it's concerning as such, is that everyone can rip off everyone else's tech now, because you can literally get a low-cost dev shop to copy the code of an app with AI. I think Google in their report or something this week, something like 30% now of their code is created by AI, and then it's checked by humans. So that's significant, right? So like, my question around that is, if the same app is 10 a penny, what's going to persuade you as a buyer to buy something over something else in the tech industry? What's your opinion, or what do you think?
I mean, for me, it's got to be social proof. Like, who's actually shouting about using this software, as well as what sort of gains they're getting. Yeah, of course, you can get like low cost copies. You can give it a try, but is it going to be as good? Maybe, you never know. But would I automatically go to a cheaper alternative if I can save? I mean, it depends on how much it is. Like, if it's like thousands and thousands, and yeah, okay, might investigate that one first. But I'd always look for social proof first.
Yeah, I'd look at it slightly differently. I don't think it's anything new. Right? Like, we've been in the competitive spaces for ages, like regardless of how it was built, right? Like you look at that, every industry I've worked in, you've had competitors that did, from the outside looking in, if you're a prospect, like we all look the same in regards to what we offer, right? So I kind of think from that point of view, it comes down to like, are you able to kind of align it to what's important to them, first of all, or be able to show that, right? Because first of all, is it going to, and secondly, does it do what it says on the tin? Like, it needs to work in the way. And there's going to be certain products out there that are going to have certain strengths or weaknesses. But yeah, that's how I'd look at it. And then probably around the customer experience part of it, right? So the support that goes with it and the people that support or wrap around that technology, so you as a customer feel pretty good in what you've got. But that probably leads me to, I'm going to take it off a little slight tangent there in the fact that looking at tech and models and how we buy stuff, like for years we've sold on a license model, and I'm seeing this big shift to outcome-based pricing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what do we think about that, moving from traditional licenses to like, hey, you pay for the value that you get from the solution, right? So whether it's like the amount of searches you get, or the sort of return you get from your customers, or whatever. Yeah, what's your thoughts on that model, moving away from traditional licenses to usage based or stroke output based?
Well, this is interesting, because if I was a salesperson today and you told me that I only got paid if people used the licenses, I wouldn't want to do that, because I came from a world of tech where you sold 25 licenses and only 5 were used monthly, right? So you wouldn't make your money, but that's pretty harsh. That being said, it's really how it should be. You really should only pay for the value you get, and I think it makes a significant difference to everyone from an equitable perspective and and like a return in investment perspective. If you can legitimately say, this is what this does, this is the value it adds, and you paid for 5 because you're only using 5. Like, wonderful, isn't it? I think it's great.
Yeah, but what about this? So I think it could just remove the complete barriers to entry, right? Like, a lot of times it's like, hey, we've got this technology and we charge on a license model, right? And so you're like, hey, I've got 20 people in my business, 50 people in my business could use it. I'll start with 2 licenses, 3 licenses, just to start, see if it kind of works. What if you were able to say, everyone can use it in the business today? Like, that's it, done, go. And you're only going to pay for what you use, that consumption model, right? Could that, as a seller, you made a point there, is like, would I make my money? Could you make more, right? Because like, if you're then billing on the consumption or an output, every time they use it and you've got more people using it, the barrier of entries have gone down. That's great. It wins. It could be a win-win, right? Like for the person buying the technology, company buying it, like, look, hey, I'm only going to pay for what I get out of it, right? I can put it in the hands of all of the relevant teams, and from the kind of vendor who's selling that, you've got low barriers of entry. Potentially, you can win more deals than you've ever done before. But the crux is then, is like, the product's got to deliver, right? And that's where it's like, hey, gone are the days of vaporware. You got to have something that genuinely works and it's kind of user friendly.
Yeah, and not only does the product have to work, but then the buyer has to know exactly what they're looking for. And this is sometimes like what I see. Sometimes I think buyers have an idea of what it is they're trying to achieve, and then something changes along the line. So in that sort of outcome-based pricing, you'd have to have a bloody strong message that purveys exactly what you're going to do for your buyers. and you have to know exactly who your ideal customer profile is for them to match that. Because again, you could have like, hey, look, there's no obligation, you only pay for outcomes, and then you got like a ton of people who use it, and I'm like, I didn't get value out of it. And then meanwhile, you've got all of that usage cost that you've got to swallow up yourself. Do you see what I mean?
No, but they still pay for that, right? Like whatever they use, they would pay for, right? So when I'm talking about an outcome, I'm not talking about like, hey, this is going to deliver whatever for you, right? So let's say the like ChatGPT is, and we'll go back to that as a model, right? Like if you do it on paid, like you get a certain, like if you got a free version, it will give you a certain amount of searches or things that you can ask, then you're done, right?
Yeah.
And so like you would kind of increase that cap afterwards, right? So go back to the days when we were selling email, right? And you're to marketers, right? And you're like, hey, can you commit to a bundle of email up front that you think you're going to spend?
Yeah.
And they're like, well, I don't know. It could be busy, it could be quiet. I don't know. Then people move to a contact model. And it's like, hey, yeah, but I've got contacts in here. But some of these, which I don't want to get rid of, and marketers will tell you this, they're like, I want to keep the whole database, right? Even though certain people have not engaged for 5 years, like they're worried, like an executive, I don't want to get rid of that because what if they're worth money at some point? But you're paying a cost for them. Now, what if it was like, hey, throw it out there, like you're only going to pay for the email that you send at any given time, right? So you don't have to commit to a block. We know certain times of year, Black Friday, which is coming up, that can be something else to talk about as well. We think that that's going to be as busy this year and like the way people are spending or not, but we'll come back. But you'll have peaks and troughs in your year, right? That's going to be a really, really busy time come January. If you're in retail, like how many kind of emails you maybe want to send out at that potential point as well. So yeah, it's interesting on how that model could work. But I'm seeing a shift of people thinking about how to like break the norm. Like how can you be different and stand out?
Have either of you read $100 Million Offers from Alex Hormozi? Amazing book, by the way. If you haven't read it, I'd definitely check it out. He talks about one of his struggles where he created this sort of like it's like this gym operation software, and he worked with these businesses, these like gyms and obviously fitness companies for months at a time up front without asking for anything. But what he did say is like all your first, I think it's like your first 100 days of clients, I'll get those revenue points. So this is what I mean, where it's like there might be some cases there you're utilizing things which you're still paying for, but in some offers there are ones that might say like you don't pay us unless you make some revenue. In that case, right, where a lot of work could go in and you still might not get something back out of it. So I think it does depend on the type of outcome and the goal that's going to be used for tracking success. But yeah, some of them are super risky. But like I said, I don't know if you haven't read it, I would highly recommend it. It's a really, really good book.
Good shout. I think we're at time. I've got to go back to my day job.
Someone hired you again, Anup.
As what? Sorry.
Someone's hired you.
Always. No, yeah.
Always working.
All right. Well, as we wrap up, thanks everybody for listening. If you're watching this back on any YouTube or LinkedIn, you hear something you like or something you're interested in, put it in the comments, tag us, direct mail, DM. And if you want us to include a guest, right now we're warming this up, but we are going to start having guests on the show to broaden the conversation. So you've been listening to The Pulse. We need like a Pulse wrap up. So we need like a tagline, don't we? Like a new.
We feel like we need a jingle.
We need a jingle. You're used to jingling. So you do this week's Pulse wrap up.
All right, cool. I'll do it. You talking to me there, James? I'll do the Pulse wrap up. So yeah, look, guys, this has been The Pulse, the one place every Friday, 1 p.m. GMT, where you can come and listen to almost three guys just have a chinwag about everything that's tech, sales, impacting entrepreneurs, founders, sellers, and some laughs along the way. Thank you for joining us. I'm Anup, Khera, co-host James Ski, and Diran George, and we will see you next week.
Well done.